So welcome everyone to today's session on Kainos Smart, our automated testing tool for testing Workday implementations. I'd like to start off with doing some introductions. My name is Mal Smith. I head up the Workday practice here in Kainos. I'm joined today by my colleague Dara McConville, who's the product architect for Smart within Kainos. I'm delighted to welcome two guest speakers, Doug Tempe, Vice President of Quality Assurance within Workday, and Mike Herriger, Senior Manager for HR Systems within Tyco International. In terms of today's agenda, Doug is going to do a brief introduction to Smart from a Workday perspective. I will then do an overview of Kainos and a little bit about the evolution of the Smart product in terms of how we've reached the situation we're at today. The majority of the session will be Dara, who will be doing a demonstration of the product, and then Mike will take over and do the client's perspective and discuss the benefits that Tyco have realized from using the tool. And finally, we'll leave some time at the end to answer your questions. So please send any questions through on the chat, and we will get to them as we go at the end. So I'm going to hand over to Doug. If you want to say a few words, Doug.
Relationship with Kainos. The QA team at Workday has been working with Kainos for several releases as a way to supplement our internal testing, and we have a very strong partnership with them. They understand QA, they understand Workday, and they understand automation. So I'm very excited about today's presentation and about the value that the Smart tool will provide to our customers. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Mal.
Thank you, Doug. So I'm conscious that a number of people on today's webinar might not have that much information about Kainos, so I thought it'd be worth spending just a minute to give you a little bit of background. So Kainos is a European-based technology company with 450 staff located in offices in the UK, Ireland, and Poland. We've been in operation from 1986, and we currently service a number of blue-chip clients both in Europe and also in the US. The core service that Kainos provide would be an IT project delivery with specialism in systems integration and test automation. In recent times, a lot of our work has been spent working on cloud computing and also mobile technology. In terms of our relationship with Workday, it actually predates Workday, if that's not an oxymoron. As some of you may be aware, Workday a number of years ago acquired an Irish technology company called CapeClear. CapeClear at the time were the leading, were the market leader for enterprise integration. And Workday liked the product so much that they actually bought the company. So at that time, Kainos were also a partner of CapeClear and used the product extensively in a number of our projects. So whenever the CapeClear team moved over to Workday, the relationships that we had with CapeClear then became relationships with Workday. And we quickly became a Workday implementation partner. So we've been working for the last couple of years in implementing Workday projects for clients around the world. We currently have over 50 consultants as part of our practice. Probably most relevant to today's presentation is that we have 20 members working as part of Doug's team in test automation. So moving on to Smart, the rationale for Smart is because of the fact that Workday is taking the HRIS arena by storm. Currently, they have over 400 Workday clients, and this number is growing every week. All of these clients are all using the same version of the software, and all of these clients require testing. So there's a definite need for a testing product. We feel in Kainos that we're uniquely placed to service that need. Firstly, as Doug mentioned, we're a Workday implementation partner. Secondly, we have over 25 years of testing experience. And probably most important, as I mentioned, we are working day and daily with Workday as part of their internal test team. So based on that, we underwent a journey, and it probably dates back to November last year at Workday Rising, where Doug, as part of his presentation on automation, kindly mentioned that if any clients wanted any help with test automation, that he would recommend they talk to Kainos. We got a number of inquiries based on this, and this went very well for us. But it got us to thinking that perhaps rather than servicing these clients individually, it made more sense to build a product so we could service all of Workday's clients. So in December and January last year, we set about building a proof of concept, and we organized a webinar for the end of January. That webinar was very well attended. We had over 300 attendees from 100 different companies. So it built on our view that there was definitely a need here. So this really gave us the impetus to go ahead and invest heavily in our development of our Smart product. So we worked for the last 5 months working with a small number of clients on an early adopter program and building Smart version 1. Our early clients, of which Mike at Tyco and his team were a key contributor, was very important to us because it meant that not only were we taking our learnings from working with Workday and our test automation experience, but also ensuring that the tool that we developed and delivered was meeting client needs. So we're delighted to say that as of July 22nd this year, we launched Smart version 1 to coincide with the release of Workday 20. If I was to sum up Smart in a sentence, I would say it's an automated testing tool for Workday implementations specifically designed for the business user. We have tried to make the tool as simple and as intuitive as possible to use. We're looking for maximum efficiency for minimum effort. In terms of how Smart works, now Dara will go into more detail in this in a minute, but in its simplest form, Smart is a user interface which sits on top of a number of automation scripts which connect to your Workday tenant. The automation scripts in the diagram here are represented with the SE icon. The SE icon stands for Selenium, which is the underlying automation technology which we use as part of our Smart product. So the beauty of the Smart tool is that Kainos is responsible for building these automation scripts. And these automation scripts are hidden away from the user via a nice, simple user interface. And it is the Kainos responsibility to maintain these scripts. And as part of the contract that you sign with Kainos, that it's Kainos will promise to keep these scripts always up to date with the latest version of Workday. So as I mentioned, on July 22nd, when Workday released Workday 20, we released our product, which was in sync with that. And our team are now currently working away on updating these automation scripts to keep in sync with Workday 2021. So in terms of the client's responsibility is to provide the test data and to use the tool. Clients do not have to worry about any automation. And because of this, clients can be up and running in days in using our Smart product. Just a final slide before I hand over to Dara. This is just to illustrate that rather than doing a lot of manual testing, by using our Smart product, you replace this with one person working up with a number of people doing the work of the manual testers, all taking place in the cloud. So I'm now going to hand over to Dara for a demonstration.
Thank you, Mal. Listed are the steps I will be performing as part of today's demo. This represents a typical use case of the Smart tool, whereby we perform a test run of multiple test cases against a complex business process. We then capture our results and export these for additional MI reporting. We then make a configuration change to the business process on our Workday tenant, and through the reuse functionality in Smart, are able to execute the same test cases in a matter of minutes. We will be using the familiar global modern services company and the finance and admin organization. We will execute a test run containing 5 test cases where we anticipate 4 applicants being successfully hired and 1 hire being unsuccessful. We will then reconfigure the hire to add 2 additional steps, and we will repeat the same test with the same data. During our previous webinar in January, I performed a live demonstration of the Smart tool as it was then, and I was using the desktop sharing feature on the WebEx control. Unfortunately, many of our attendees report persistent latency issues with the screen refreshes. So for that reason, I'll be walking through interactive screenshots of this demo scenario that I've actually performed on the tool over the weekend. So where to start? Well, Smart is a multi-tenanted, true software as a service offering, which is available on demand via your web browser. Each Smart customer is assigned their own subdomain from kainosmart.com. In our demo, I'll be executing tests for global modern services. So entering gms.kainosmart.com brings me to the GMS Smart tenant. We are presented with the GMS Smart login screen. We can now enter my login credentials and click Sign In. We're presented with My Test Runs, a simple list of all test runs created and executed by me. Each executed test run is keyed against a specific Workday version, as the first 4 tests indicate. Each executed test run also records an execution and a result status, which we will be discussing later on. I will first describe how Smart interacts with your underlying Workday tenant. As an administrator, I am granted the privilege to view and amend the GMS Smart configuration. 5 elements are required to be populated in order for Smart to interact with your underlying tenant. The URL of your tenant data center, the username and password of the implementer user account, which you have pre-configured, the tenant name, and the endpoint for the web services within your Workday data center. In all circumstances, Kainos support shall be available to help you complete this configuration if necessary. Once configured, we can now proceed to create a test run. The Create Test Run screen presents a list of the core HCM business processes and integration types on the left-hand side. These are referred to as test targets. Clicking on the Integrations tab lists the integration types that Smart version 1 currently supports. Currently, that is outbound EIBs and inbound EIBs, which read from a pre-configured endpoint. And we also support inbound and outbound studio integrations. In order to add a test target to my test run, we can simply click the Add button beside each. In this instance, we wish to test the hire process and select the related Add option. In order to perform a test on this test target, we must now provide the requisite test data. This is achieved in Smart using Excel workbooks for data capture. We maintain a library of data template workbooks for each of Workday's business processes. Each workbook includes profile information, an overview of the structure and steps on how to complete it. We can select the Download Templates option, which will retrieve the Excel data template for the hire business process. We select the Blank Template Download option. So this option has now opened the Excel workbook for the hire business process on my local PC. We can see that the Workday version this template relates to is version 20. The locale is set to the United States, and the time zone is Eastern Standard. Each workbook contains one or more worksheets which correspond to the sub-processes configured within that business process definition. Clicking on the first worksheet, Hire, which represents the initiation step of the hire process, we see columns A to E contain some useful reference information on the required data for this step in the business process. We have the name of the screen or subsection, the type of field, the name of the field, some additional commentary, and also sample data for reference. All worksheets are screen-centric, as opposed to Workday ILO templates or EIB templates, which are often API-centric, and fields are grouped together by screen name or subsection name. Scrolling to the right, we can see where we enter our first test case dataset, indicated by the green cells. Each column in this worksheet, from F onwards, represents a single test case against the higher test target we previously selected. In order to assess what test data to use, we will now log on to our GMS Workday tenant. Browsing to our GMS partner tenant, we can enter my credentials and log into Workday. Browsing to the Finance and Admin organization, we can see there are currently 4 constituent employees. This is the organization we wish to hire into. We can now view the hire business process definition for this organization. This is a view of the definition of the hire business process that we'll be testing. It is 13 steps, including 5 sub-processes. To expedite the data population process, a number of Workday custom reports are pre-uploaded to your Workday tenant by Smart. These allow us to base our test data on existing valid worker data, and through the process of amending existing valid data, instead of conjuring up test data from scratch, we speed up the data capture process for our test cases. We can now perform a search for the Kainos Smart custom reports to assist us with the hire process. Now we can see the list of all Kainos Smart reports. These reports return the data elements required for the data templates using existing worker attributes, which are knitted together using the Workday object model. We select the report for the hire business process for new applicants. Executing this report returns a list of existing employees and all associated characteristics for the hire process data template. We can then export this report data to Excel using the familiar Workday export option. We now have a list of workers who have been successfully hired into GMS, upon which we can base our test data. You may notice that the column names at the top of this Workday report exactly match the field names in our data template. This direct mapping greatly simplifies the maneuver of data from one report to another, with a single-click approach sufficing in most cases. Flipping back to my Workday report, we can now choose Aaron McVeigh, upon which we will base our first test case on. We can highlight this row and select Copy. Returning to our hired data template, we can select the existing applicant row in our test case column, and this row was also the first column in the Workday report. We can select Paste and finally click Transpose. And our existing data is copied into precisely the right field. Scrolling down, we can see that the address and work contact information has also been added. We can now proceed to edit this data and amend the values as required for our test case. We can now include the test case metadata, including an identifier and the expected result, which in this case is success. We also specify the user we wish to initiate this business process as, Logan McNeil, and the Finance and Administration organization name. We then complete column F, the test case for Aaron McVeigh, within the remaining worksheets, edit personal information, edit ID for worker, and so on and so forth. We then repeat this process for 4 additional test cases. But we also want to specify an invalid worker type for Peter Parker, which we are anticipating as a failure in this hire process. We then save this workbook for upload to Smart. We can now upload the completed workbook containing our test data and attribute this with our hire business process test target. We select the Set Data File option and choose Done. We are presented with a green tick to indicate that data upload has been successful. We are able to repeat this process and add additional business processes or integrations into this test run if required. We enter a meaningful test name and choose Save. We can now see that as the most recently created test run, this appears at the top of my test run list. The Workday version number remains unassigned, as this test run has only been created and has not been executed against any particular Workday version as of yet. We can choose the Execute option to submit the 5 test cases for execution against the hire business process test target within the Finance and Admin org on our GMS tenant. At this point, as the status of our test run has changed to started, our bank of automated testing machines will execute the 5 test cases on the hire business process. To give you an idea of the steps performed, this excerpt recording of a Smart test is a speeded up view of how Smart replicates the keystrokes of manual testers using Selenium-based automation scripts developed by our automated testing experts. Smart automates the mundane tasks of logging in and logging out as a multitude of different users, and Smart intelligently reads business process definitions in real time, meaning we can cater for any configuration, no matter how complex. But keep in mind that we submitted not 1, but 5 test cases to our bank of virtual machines. Smart reacts to this by scaling out on our Elastic Cloud platform. Simply put, this means that the number of virtual test machines are increased to process our submitted test cases in parallel. The effect of this is that Smart will perform 5 test cases on Workday in less time than it would have taken 1 test case to be executed manually. We can now click on the Results option to view the outcome of the test run. The total execution time of 5 hires was 20 minutes. And I know that to perform this 13-step hire process manually for 1 employee could take up to 40 minutes. We can see that 4 have completed and 1 for Peter Parker has failed to complete, as we had anticipated. We can click into the Hire and Smith test case to view the individual steps performed by Smart as part of the business process automation. Smart records each and every step performed within the business process in an audit-type approach, providing the sort of granularity that gets geeks like me excited. Scrolling down, we can see Smart logging out and logging in as different users with separate roles as part of a review step and as part of the proposed compensation business process. Returning to the test run results screen, we can now click on the failure reported for Peter Parker's test case to identify why this may have occurred. Smart intelligently captures a screenshot of every error returned in Workday during the automation process and appends this to both the test run results table, as shown here, and also the test case details table. Clicking on the screenshot brings up the familiar Workday pop-up screen, where we can see that there is no match found for part-time summer work job type. Returning to our Workday tenant and revisiting the finance and admin org, we can see that 4 of our 5 hires now appear in our members list. And as expected, Peter Parker misses out. Now we are happy with the results, we can set the pass-fail status of each of our test cases. The execution status column contains test automation status values, which are set by the Smart tool. These can be either successfully completed or failed to complete. The result column contains a set of pass-fail values, which indicate whether the expected result of the test matches the actual result. And it is my responsibility as a tester to set these values, and I do this based on the expected result column. Once our results have been set, we have the option of exporting these results for further manipulation in Excel if we desire. We can simply click on the download button against our test run. Results are exported in CSV format, and they can be opened in Excel and copied into your Smart Management Reporting Workbook, as is shown here. This workbook is an auxiliary Excel workbook that we provide to Smart customers, which allows an immediate management summary to be generated based on downloaded test results. This is where execution and test pass metrics are calculated and charted based on the provided data. The results we have downloaded are placed into the second tab in this worksheet. And here we can see the 5 executions and 5 passes for our hire test run. I would like to now jump back to our business process definition in Workday. Here is the existing hire business process definition. We can now choose to edit this definition with the purpose of reusing the test data we have already prepared to test the change that we have made. Let's add 2 additional approval steps. Here we see 1 approval from the benefits partner before the review employee hire, and 1 approval from the manager's manager before the proposed comp sub-process. If we simply rescind the hires previously executed on the Workday tenant for those 4 applicants, we can reuse the prepared test data without a single modification. Switching back to Smart, we can simply select the Reuse option from the My Test Run screen, but we must amend the name of the new test run to make it unique. We can then select the Save option, and we can simply choose the Execute option again. During this test run, we can see that the execution time increased by over 1 minute, which indicates to me that the additional approval steps were executed. We can click into the Hire Ann Smith test case again to review the detailed steps. We can scroll down to where this additional step was logged. Here we can see the first approval step with the benefits partner, Maria Cardoza. And here we see the second approval step with the manager's manager, Steve Morgan. Finally, we can set our result status values to passed as we expected. Which brings us back to our landing page, from which I can now log out. I'd like to summarize the features I've now shown you. So, Smart scales to process your tests in parallel. Like any tool, a true force multiplier. Smart provides granular test metrics for comprehensive reporting. Smart automates the steps performed by manual testers, including the arduous tasks of logging in and logging out as a multitude of users. Smart allows data templates to be used time and time again. And Smart facilitates expected and actual result comparison, the true premise of a test. So Smart is what it is today because of the valuable input from the key stakeholders in our early adopter program. And Mike Herriger is one of those key stakeholders. So along with his team, I've helped shape Smart into a tool that has already given them business benefits. I will now hand over to Mike, who will talk about shaping and using Smart within his team.
Okay, thank you, Dara. So as Dara said, I'm Michael Herriger, and I'm with Tyco, and I am the Senior Manager of the HR Systems team responsible for Workday production support and update testing. And just a few words about Tyco. We are the largest global fire and security company. We have over 69,000 employees in 50-plus countries around the world. As Mal said in earlier slides, Tyco was part of the early adopter program. And roughly around April timeframe, we got heavily engaged with Kainos, and Kainos had multiple on-site visits to the U.S. Tyco corporate is based out of Princeton, New Jersey. And in these sessions where they met with myself and my team, they demonstrated functionality in the Smart tool early and allowed us to provide feedback on the tool. As we provided feedback, we really helped to shape the Smart tool through the early adopter program. Kainos was able to add some key features that was demonstrated by Dara earlier, and we really helped to contribute, through the shaping. Also, Kainos followed an agile development approach where they were able to go back and develop these features and then return back to Tyco and show us the results of the development and that new feature. So all of this led to a production-ready version by July 23rd for us to use the Smart tool for Workday Update 20 testing. So how do we use Smart in Update 20? The first thing I wanted to talk about was integrations. So through the templates that Dara showed a few minutes ago, they have templates for integrations, and we were able to list out our integrations in that template format with the different parameters that were expected. And what would happen is it would generate the outbound integrations in Update 19, and then it would also generate the same integration in Update 20. Currently, in this version of Smart, we would then have the two outputs, and we would have to then do a manual comparison of the integration outputs. We're excited that for Update 21 in Smart version 2, they will have built-in comparison of the integrations from the previous update to the new update. And we also use the tool to process our inbound integrations from Update 19 and Update 20. And we were able to test 48 integrations just within a couple of days. We've had 36, just to give you an idea of the types of integrations, 36 Studio outbound integrations, 7 Studio inbound integrations, 4 EIB outbound, and 1 EIB inbound. In addition, we used Smart to test our business processes, and we started on Tuesday, July 23rd, and we tested for about a week through Thursday, August 1st, and we were able to execute 405 test cases via the Smart tool with coverage of 22 countries within Tyco Global. And this number of cases was roughly a 30% case increase from our prior update, Update 19, that we were able to execute. The other thing, too, is we really appreciated the Smart tool's ability, as Dara demonstrated, to be able to extract the status of a test run and then to be able to input that into an XLS worksheet and then have the XLS worksheet generate the testing status charts and reports that we were then able to track our overall testing and provide that information to our leadership at Tyco. So through the use of the Smart tool, we believe from Update 19 through Update 20 that we saved roughly about 25% in man hours compared to Update 19. There was some initial startup investment where we needed to build the regression test suite, those 405 cases that I mentioned, in the XLS data templates. So what's next is we're looking forward to version 2 and Update 21, and we've spoken with Mal and Dara and are very excited about the existing tool, but also some things that are going to be coming to support Update 21, such as the integration comparison that I talked about a few minutes ago, as well as the tool's ability to support customer reports testing. And then, of course, for Update 21 and beyond, we now have a repeatable regression test suite with the data and cases defined in these templates that we can, tweak and utilize for Update 21 and future updates. So that's a little bit about how Tyco has used Smart and some of the realized benefits. Let me go ahead and turn it back over to Mal.
Sorry, guys, I just had myself on mute there. Yes, thank you very much, Mike, for that. That was very good. So I just want to finish off before we move on to the question and answers, just with a little bit about next steps. Mike alluded to some of the features that we're going to be building into our roadmap, but I wanted to cover that in a little bit more detail. So in terms of our roadmap, our ultimate goal is to provide full coverage of all of the Workday Business Suite. So as Dara mentioned, our automation at the moment is focusing on core HCM business processes and the main integration types. Over time, we want to add in all of the HCM business processes. And as Mike mentioned there, we're already starting on working on the other integrations, such as peak-offs and custom reports. Over time, though, we want to add in all of the other Workday modules: higher ed, payroll, expenses, procurement, financials, and of course, Workday will not be stopping there, with recruitment coming next year as well. In terms of the order in which we will do this coverage, it will be led by our clients. So as Mike said, Tyco and our other early adopters had a big influence in terms of the features and the coverage that we did for Workday 20, and that will continue to be the case for Workday 21 and beyond. So that's it in terms of the coverage. In terms of the features, I know that the integration comparison is one that's very close to Mike's heart, and that's one that the guys are working on now. But there's a number of other features that we're looking at. The absolute number one, just to go over it again, is we are committed to making sure that we're always in sync with the latest version of Workday. That is something that clients get as part of their subscription. So the big benefit here of doing it yourself, if clients were to do automation themselves, they would have to wait until Workday released the latest version, and then you'd have to update your automation scripts at that point. By using Kainos, and the fact that Kainos is a Workday testing partner, we have early access to Workday. So our team are currently working with Workday on testing Workday 21. So whenever Workday 21 is released, our Smart tool will be immediately ready. Another feature that we're looking at is the grouping of test runs. So in Dara's presentation there, you probably saw quite a lot of test runs listed. And over time, we realized that this would become a very long list. So what we're going to add in for our next release is the ability to group these test runs into, for example, a test suite or a test group, in much the same way that Workday do with their job profiles and their job families and their job family groups. So the example for this would be you might want to group all of your test runs for your system testing cycle 1 and then do another set for system test cycle 2. In terms of the data validation, so you saw when Dara was doing the demonstration, he was able to load the template up, and it would prompt him if he loaded up an incorrect template for the business process he was trying to test. But we want to take that a step further. We want to actually do validation when you load the template. So rather than having to wait until you actually execute the business process, we want to see, we want to be able to report early any errors that the client may have made in terms of entering their data. Mike, as I mentioned, already covered the integration comparison. Another feature is the reporting capabilities. This is a requirement that virtually all of our early adopters have asked for. So we want to move in line here with what Workday have in terms of being able to do a PDF from any page within the Smart tool, being able to export it into XLS, which we have in some pages. So we want to add that for all of the screens within the Smart tool. Finally, on incident tracking. So clients have said, yes, the Smart tool is fantastic at finding problems with our Workday implementation, but once we find a problem, we then have to go and log that incident somewhere, and it would be great if Smart could do that for us. Could we actually log the incidents within Smart and track their progress there? So that is another area that we're looking at. But all of these features and all of the coverage will be dictated, as I said, by our clients. This is far from an exhaustive list, and we have constant sessions within the team and with the early adopters at looking at this list and making sure that we're prioritizing these appropriately. I want to move on then to Workday Rising. So I'm very excited that Workday Rising is fast upon us, and I'm delighted to say that we'll be presenting along with Doug and Mike on the Wednesday the 11th, just after lunch at 1:30. So hopefully, if any of you are attending Rising, we'd really encourage you to come along to our session. Also, just to let you know that we're in booth 300, and we'll be doing live demonstrations. I appreciate that Dara covered an awful lot of points in today's demo. It's a lot to take in for time round. So hopefully, if you're able to make it to Rising, we can spend a little bit more time and delve a little bit deeper, and you can ask the questions and get the answers, hopefully, that you want. And And finally, for me, before I hand back to Dara for the questions, I just want to say that we are very confident of Smart, and we're very confident that you will love Smart whenever you use it in the same way that Mike has mentioned there from the Tyco perspective. So we're willing to offer any clients who'd like to take us up on the offer of a free proof of concept, where we would actually set up Smart to talk to your Workday tenant and set it up for maybe a couple of business processes and a couple of integrations. So rather than seeing the demonstration today against GMS and using Logan McNeil, you can actually use it against your own tenants and actually use it with your own data. So if you'd like any more details than that, please contact me after the webinar. My contact details are there. And as I said, happy to take any inquiries. Obviously, myself and Dara and Doug and Mike also happy to take any other questions you may have. So please get in contact with any questions you may have. So talking of questions, I'm now going to hand back to Dara, who's going to chair the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mal. And thanks to all our attendees who've been as busy as we are in submitting questions. Okay, some really good ones here. Okay, let's just work through the list. So there's a question here around how the tool can be used within the guides of the new Workday update process. So, Doug, I may ask you, maybe if you wanted to answer that one.
Sure, I can take that one. This is Doug. Yeah, a lot of you have heard about the new update process rolling out with Workday 21. And just to give you a quick overview, in early November, there's going to be this new concept of a preview tenant. A lot of customers are very excited about this. It'll give you an early look at the release, even before you get upgraded in your production tenants in the middle of December. With this preview tenant, it's the perfect place to run some tests, and using the Smart tool there will be just right, and you'll be able to take advantage of that preview tenant and get some confidence before your production tenant is updated. The other thing to mention around this is that historically we've had a restriction on running Selenium tests only against implementation tenants, and I'm happy to say that restriction will be lifted in Workday 21, which allows even more flexibility to run automated tests on a variety of different types of tenants. So all of this results in more flexibility and more capabilities for you as customers to get an early look and get some testing done before you actually take the date in December.
Thanks, Doug. There's a question here around whether Smart can interact with more than one tenant. Mal, do you want to take that one?
No problem, Dara. Yes, so Smart can be configured against any Workday tenant that supports Selenium. So as Doug mentioned, which is great news for us, this will include the sandbox tenants going forward. So at the moment, the business processes will only work on the implementation tenants, but going forward, you'll be able to use both implementation and the sandbox tenant. And using the configuration screen, Dara, which you demonstrated earlier on, that's where the administrator user would configure Smart to point to whichever tenant that you actually wanted to use for your testing.
Okay. There's a question here from Mike. Mike, having been one of the guys to use the tool extensively, can you tell us what you think its killer feature is?
Sure. I would say repeatability feature that's within the tool. We've taken the time now with Update 20 to build up the data templates. As I mentioned, the 405 cases that we built up to support Workday 20. We can now reuse those cases for Workday Update 21 and beyond, and we hope to bring additional time and effort savings as we go forward. So that's probably the feature that we're most excited about.
Thanks, Mike. There's a question then around how Smart handles locales and time zones. particularly around data input or data gathering from different regions. I'm happy to answer that, guys. So I suppose Smart is quite strict in that it uses a single locale to interact with your Workday tenant. And this is the US locale with the time zone EST. And this is achieved through interacting with the Workday tenant with any of your global users, but under the US locale only when we programmatically interact with it. So this removes the need to maintain localizations or translations for different regions, and just keeps Smart what was intended to be in the first place, a simple, easy-to-use tool. There's a question here around capacity limits. Do we have any capacity limits in Smart around test cases? Well, we do. We have a baseline subscription that we've initially capped the number of test cases in a year to be around twice the number of employees in the organization, or 10,000, whichever is the larger number. And, we feel based on the experience we've had with early adopters that seems to be a reasonable figure. So, Mal, there's just a question here around the management reporting and why this was done in Excel and not specifically done within Smart. And do you want to take that one, Mal?
Yeah, no problem, Dara. So that was probably maybe one for Mike, actually, because on our last visit to Tyco, I think it was around the middle of June, Mike, we hadn't got reporting built in, and I know it was a feature that Tyco in particular were very keen on. So there was, we said that we would work to try to get some limited functionality in terms of reports in. So that was a feature that we put in towards the end of our release, Dara, to do some very basic reporting where you could take the inputs that you could download from Excel and copy them into an Excel template. As I said, this is version 1. Version 2, we're looking to beef up the reporting capabilities, and you will be able to do a PDF report from any page that you can see within the screen. Just while I have the floor, Dara, I also just want to mention one thing we didn't cover, which again Mike pushed us very hard for, was the mobile functionality. So Mike was asking, could he get mobile alerts in terms of how his test automation was progressing. So we went one better than that, and we were actually able to provide the full user interface on both your mobile and also on the iPad. So again, that's something we look forward to demonstrating if anybody wants to take us up on that at Rising.
There's a question here just around the data jurisdiction. So as a European-based customer, I use Workday's European data centers. What happens if I use Smart? Where are your data centers? I'm happy to take that one, guys. So, we provide dedicated deployments of Smart for specific jurisdictions, and we have a dedicated US deployment in the east coast of the US, and we've a Dublin-based deployment for our European customers. There's a question here around whether we're targeting this tool just for Workday customers, or are we considering allowing other Workday implementation partners to use this? Mal, do you want to grab that one?
Absolutely. I'm pleased that this question came in. No, we absolutely want to target this towards the Workday implementation partners as well. We're sort of adopting the Workday methodology here. In terms of Kainos, we're a relatively small company, 450 staff, and our hope for this tool is that this is going to become the de facto tool for all Workday testing. So it wouldn't be possible for Kainos to, even if it wanted to support all of those clients. So we absolutely want the other Workday implementation partners to use this as part of their own implementation, and we've had some very positive conversations in that regard already.
Okay, so as a system administrator on Smart, how would I amend the underlying Selenium test scripts is a question that's in here. Well, hopefully our slides have explained that, and again, I'm happy to explain this in any follow-up emails with you guys, but you'll have no need to amend Selenium test scripts whatsoever. The complexities of Selenium are abstracted away from you as a user. So these scripts are developed and maintained by our Selenium automation experts, and as part of your subscription, we provide a commitment to maintain these scripts in line with Workday releases. So another question we have here then is, logging in as implementer, are BPs acted out as real roles, or is this hire being demoed completing all actions by implementer? No, sorry, the actual individuals involved in the hire process are the real individuals that have tasks assigned based on the roles that are configured in your business process definition. So it wouldn't be a true accurate test to run your hire business process as an implementer, because they have full authorization and full access to all of your data. So you'll be able to see that in Smart through the detailed logging that I displayed on the test case detail screen, where every login and log out activity is audited specifically. There's another question here.
Sorry, Dara, just if I could add to that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's an important feature of Smart in that you can actually run the same test case as different people. And this is an excellent way of testing your security configuration within Workday. So obviously, certain people will be able to perform activities such as propose compensation or hiring employees, and other staff members won't be able to. So you'll be able to check your security configuration by using that field in terms of who you want to run the test as. So if you run the test as someone who doesn't have or shouldn't have sufficient privileges, the test should fail. And that would be, you'll be able to go in and put your expected result as this test should fail because the user does not have the appropriate permissions. And then the test should fail, and you'll be able to go into the Smart tool and mark that test as a success, because although it's a failure, it was a negative test that you were checking.
So a question that probably leads on from that, Mal, is do you have to specify all of the usernames required for each test case? And I'm happy to answer that. Obviously that's not the case. Because business process definitions are read in real time, it's not until the Workday workflow engine assigns that task to the next individual do we then interrogate Workday to find out who that individual actually is. So you will never know ahead of time for certain which individual is getting assigned the task. It's through, I suppose it's smart by name, smart by nature. It's the fact that we work that out in real time that we configure that. So I'm just conscious of time here, guys, and we'll just finish on one question. The question is Kainos compatible, or are there plans to make Kainos compatible with other HR SaaS solutions such as SAP and Fusion? And I think the answer to that is a categorical no, unless Mal has anything to add.
No, absolutely not. We're 100% committed to Workday. We think that Workday is the future in terms of HRIS solutions. So we will not be automating for any other solutions in this area.
Guys, I noticed there's at least another 20 questions here, so I'll give you my word that all the questions will be responded to via email. I'm just going to hand back to Mal here now just to wrap up the session, because I'm conscious that for a lot of people their working day is just about to start. Thank you, Dara. Yes, I just want to finish off by saying thanks to everyone for taking the hour out today to attend the session. Also, just to let you know that we've recorded the session, so if any of your colleagues weren't able to attend today, we will be putting it up on our website, and we will be sending out a link to all of the attendees. So thank you very much, and I hope I'm talking to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.